The biggest challenge that I have when I work with luxury brands is
Tony King, CEO of King & Partners.
I've found that they all want to have the same type of photography, the same type of video. They're not following trends necessarily, but they're kind of restricting themselves to a magazine editorial style feeling. How do you stand out?
I flat out will tell clients they're being unoriginal and just telling them that if they already know about it, it's probably not cool. Their consumers got all these brands in front of them and they're all great and they're all used to it, but you've got to sort of go a step ahead of your consumer. You've got to pull them along for the journey. And I think if we can come up with something original that people it really resonates, they really aspire to be part of it, but it hasn't been done before, that's a win. But it's just convincing them to come on this journey with you. I will flat out tell them they're being unoriginal and lame and we need to do something much cooler with that.
Welcome to The Marketing Factor. Today I'm joined by Tony King, who's the CEO of King & Partners, a force in luxury and lifestyle branding. Tony's journey from Gucci Group design director to founding his own agency is a testament to his creative vision and entrepreneurial spirit. Since 2010, Tony and his wife, Inii, have built King & Partners into a globally recognized agency, partnering with some of the world's most prestigious brands in fashion, hospitality, and lifestyle. With over 25 years in the industry, Tony brings a wealth of experience and insight to our conversation today. Tony, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for gracing me with your presence.
Thank you so much. That's such a build-up. That's so impressive when I hear it like that. Thank you very much.
Well, the first time that we actually met, and you probably don't remember this, but I surely do. I had just started Cobble Hill, fledgling agency down in Charleston, South Carolina, and there weren't many other design agencies that I looked to for inspiration, and King & Partners was definitely one of them, and you graciously took a call with me who had very little experience, and you gave me great advice, and so I'm glad we can sit here probably, 11 years later and chat a little bit.
No, I remember it well, actually. I mean, it's always good to hear from your peers and other agencies and just chat. And if I can spare the pain that I've been through with certain client or agency situations, I'm always happy to do that.
Well, I appreciate it. I'd love to hear kind of your background, because I know it's truly remarkable that you've been in the industry for 25 years and you've really worked with some pretty incredible clients. But I believe your first kind of real job was at the Gucci Group, designing their first e-commerce website. Is that right?
Kind of, yeah. So, my background is I was a graphic designer for a long time. My father was a graphic designer. My grandfathers were both graphic designers. So I've always been into design, but I think the thing that made it a little bit different, I was also obsessed with computer games and computers. So I was kind of at a very early age mixing in sort of technology and creativity. And I lived in London, and in the late 90s, when I left school at 16, became a sort of trainee graphic designer in a studio. They didn't have computers. It was all like Letraset and reprographic cameras. And we eventually got one computer, and I was like, I think there's something in this. And the internet was sort of starting to come along. And I said to my boss at the time, I really think internet and web design and potentially e-commerce one day will be a thing. And they were like, no, it's just a phase. It's really not going to work out. So I took that as a sign to sort of maybe leave that company. And I went to a different agency in London that was starting out with web design. There was about 15 people there. And I went there because they had a second location in New York. And I'd always dreamt of moving to New York. I'd never been to America, but every day I saw my boss in our studio in London, I'd be like, can you please send me to New York? Please just give me 6 months there. Anything, just please send me. And I would hassle him every time he'd walk through the studio. And eventually one day he said, you know what, you've got your chance. We've got a special visa situation. Someone from our New York office is coming here and you can go there. And it's like a visa switch. Ended up moving to New York. This is 1997. And that company ended up getting bought by agency.com and getting bigger and bigger, which was really interesting and great experience. But all of the clients were getting more boring as the agency got bigger. And so by day I was working for, Hewlett Packard website or the Compaq Computers website or British Airways website. And all of my friends in New York were in the sort of fashion and creative industry. And so I started doing sort of free work at the weekends and in the evenings because I had no life and had no money. And I thought, I'll just sit at my computer and do something. And I would do kind of bits of branding and bits of websites, a little bits of content and design work for fashion industry. And I was kind of doing this and living this sort of double life for a couple of years. And then one day I got an email from Gucci Group, which is now called Kering. And they said, look, we hear you're the guy that knows about fashion and what it should be doing on the internet. Seems absurd to even say that now. And I went up to their office on Fifth Avenue and I sat down with them and I said, yeah, I mean, I get the fashion aesthetic. I get the look and feel. I know the whole industry, but I also know what's happening in designs and internet. And I see e-commerce coming. And what's your plan? And of course, they had no plan. I think they had a Micromedia Flash website at the time that they probably spent $1 million on that didn't actually do anything, had 0 transactions. And I said, they offered me a job, shortcut, and I had this amazing job where I was the design director of Gucci Group. It was my first real job, as you said. And it was fantastic because I got to work with Gucci, Alexander McQueen, Stella McCartney, Bottega Veneta, all the Gucci Group brands that were all just sort of dipping a toe into websites. And I said, look, I'll do this. I'll take this job on. It'll be fascinating, and I really will enjoy it. But you've got to promise me you'll give me a little budget for e-commerce. And they gave me 30 grand. So I designed the site. I shot the products on the conference room table in the Gucci Group office. I had a friend of mine program what we could, but nothing was integrated. Nothing was plugged in. Basically, they let me go live with this test of like Gucci accessories. I think on the second day, someone bought a belt. I would run downstairs, make sure we had the belt in the store. We had it. I would go back upstairs, process the order, get the belt to the packaging people. They'd send it off. And it was so archaic, but it was a real eye-opener. I learned so much about the systems that are needed, inventory systems and payment systems and all that sort of stuff. And I really learned from the ground up about e-commerce. And my time at Gucci was amazing for that.
So luxury brands weren't doing e-commerce at the time, but was Amazon? I mean, I assume Amazon was kind of fledgling.
Yeah, there was e-commerce, but it was just it was really looked down upon by the luxury industry and fashion industry and basically from the middle upwards. But everyone was looking down at it, saying it just won't apply to me. And actually, I remember one day Natalie Massenet, the founder of Net-a-Porter, who was a massive fashion e-commerce site, came to see some people at Gucci, and they pulled me into the meeting. She said she had these plans to launch this e-commerce fashion site, and she was pretty much laughed out of the room. They were like, our products will never sell online. People will always come to the store. And I ended up running after it. Said, look, I really think it's going to work. But ignore them. I think it's going to be massive, and I'm going to do my very best to help you on my side. And yeah, and I'd sit in the meeting room where I was part of the creative team too. So I would see some of the ad campaigns we were doing, and I would be like, well, where's the URL going to go? Where do we put Gucci.com? And they were like, well, we can't put that on an ad. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we have this site, you're letting me test if we're selling things. Like, you need to put Gucci.com on there. It's absurd that it's not. And we had great debates and arguments about it. And eventually, after a year or so, the sales started picking up. It became a thing where they put it on there. But it was ridiculous, really ridiculous.
So was there a time when the floodgates just opened for those sites and then all of a sudden you started seeing it, or was it just kind of was there an overnight? I mean, probably didn't feel overnight to you, but
no, it wasn't an overnight, but there was like a 6-month period where this system we built without any technology or integration was basically human beings. Well, I was the first one that would check an order and see if we had it and process it. So what we did after about 2 months was hire someone to do that job for me. But then after about 4 months, we had 2 people doing that. And after about 6 months, we had a room like 8 to 10 people we called online personal shoppers. So we kind of pivoted it and made it a bit more bespoke and hand touch and the sort of human e-commerce. And I remember coming in one day and they're all on the phone. They're all talking to customers and who are asking questions. They're all processing orders. And I'm like, this is actually working. And I went to see some of the other Gucci Group brands and sort of showed them what we were doing. And they all, I think we did Bottega Veneta next. And we kind of switched them all one by one with the same model. And then with some of the revenue we started making, we would like invest that back into sort of automating some systems and plugging into a warehouse and doing our own product buy and slowly getting more and more legit as each sort of quarter went by. It was fascinating.
And so that is pre-Magento even. I mean, this is pre any sort of framework or any sort of, you were just kind of hand coding of using authorized.net, or what was the credit card?
Authorized.net was a big part of my life back then. I haven't heard that in a while, but yeah, absolutely it was. I was lucky enough to know a really good group of technology people, and we built a lot of things just by scratch. I mean, it's something recognizable to today's tech stack where you can just pick the 7 things you need and plug them all together. It's amazing. But yeah, it was hand-built technology.
Yeah. So you parlayed this into your own agency. Where did the impetus for starting an agency come from?
Well, after about 2.5 years of Gucci Group, I would sort of look around the industry and think, wow, if Gucci needed this sort of, if Gucci were in such a bad situation that they needed me to come in and help do this, there must be a potential for an agency to help luxury brands. And so I handed in my notice and took some office space. We had a computer and an IKEA desk and a project manager and a developer, and started my first agency called Create the. The idea is we'd have create the solutions, create.com, create the media, and it was like it's going to be a suite of tools, and that immediately blew up. Like Gucci was our first client. I already had a head start at all the Gucci brands. I was doing early digital marketing for them and helping with general design and emails and interface stuff. But then I got a phone call from Marc Jacobs, and they're like, "Can you come? We saw you did with Gucci. Can you do the same for us?" Went down to see them, came back with a check. Didn't even sign. They didn't even wait for the contract we signed. They gave me a check and asked me to get going. And that was the first LVMH client we had. After that, that was truly right time, right place, right skill set, right industry. They were desperate to get online, desperate to do cool, innovative things. And the agency grew from 3 of us in a little room to almost 500 people in 5 years. We had offices in London, Milan, and the New York head office. We worked with every LVMH brand, all the Gucci Group brands, lots of main high street brands. It was all fashion. And it was a fantastic learning period. And then after about 6 years, I became somewhat disillusioned with the fact that we were so far down the sort of funnel. I would see some of these more like the creative branding agencies having this sort of bigger discussions and a real seat at the table with the brands we're working with. They would be creating content and creating branding and creative brands and handing them to us to put online. I want to go to the beginning and have that seat and be there help create brands. So after about in 2009, we'd had some investors come in to create the group, and I took that as my opportunity to leave graciously and start again. And the goal was to build an agency that did more than just e-commerce and more than just fashion. So it was like an advertising agency with great digital skill set that worked for fashion, but also luxury, general lifestyle. And I was beginning to get this passion into hospitality work as well. So that was the beginnings of King & Partners in 2010.
That's amazing. How, I mean, it's just incredible to think your trajectory, right? And King & Partners is, you guys I feel like you have been doing the most remarkable work in luxury brand space for as long as I can remember. But how do you think that luxury branding has really changed since those early internet days? Because to me, there is still somewhat of a luxury brands, at least if you look at LVMH style brands, there isn't a huge difference, I don't think, but maybe there is.
I think my job is like almost like a video game, like Frogger. I've got to get this brand across the street from where they are to like great success, avoiding gimmicks and bullshit, and going to good idea for good idea to good idea and making them come to life and work and turn into like success. That's really it. Avoiding bullshit, getting the brand to successful places. And you do that with the power of good ideas.
Yeah. What's kind of the biggest like overhyped marketing trend that you've seen come and go?
Where do I begin here? So I got like, I don't want to piss anyone off, but NFTs, crypto, Metaverse, Second Life, VR, AR, influencers. I mean, there's certain things that works well, but that really has turned into a list of shit I hate. But that I hate a lot of it for a reason, because like I've been sitting in meetings with clients getting distracted by bullshit and sending budget towards bullshit for so long. And I've had clients that sat down with me and said, we're gonna cut our campaign budget because we want to build something in the metaverse, and our clients are all going to go there and buy digital versions of our products. And I'm like, okay, let's see if that works. And they get 3 visits, they wasted $250,000, then they come back to me and said, yeah, we've completely fucked it up. How do we go back and start again? So I mean, it's the same thing with e-commerce though. I sat in a room where a lot of people said e-commerce was bullshit. I think you've got to have this intuition to sort of spot what's real and what's not.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your take on if you think the .com, if you think the diversification of platforms to buy goods there will be more transactions and revenue coming from other things other than your main .com for a luxury brand online.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Yeah, I'm gonna just put a stake in the ground and say no. I don't see that happen. I think flagships are flagships, whether they be your 4-story store on Fifth Avenue or your digital flagship. But if you build it properly and stock it properly and make it interesting, then it's going to be your number one source of revenue.
Yeah, and so how do you convince your clients, the clients that respect you and are paying you good money, to trust their gut on creative decisions when there is all this data that's potentially pointing different directions?
I mean, I think we've got a good track record. We've done things quite slowly and carefully and proven out things, and that's really what we do. And I think we're successful because of our ideas. So if we can show a client we've got a good idea, and how that idea makes their brand look better, makes their customers think about their brand, and actually turns into like a commerce action, that to me is we've just got to prove that out to them. And that's what we do, one project at a time. It's not just about fancy creative or making it look beautiful. It's about how's this going to affect their business?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to get to, you think a lot about companies are often misunderstanding the positioning of premium, right?
Yeah.
What do companies often misunderstand about positioning themselves as premium?
Yeah, I think it's really forced a lot of the time, where companies they're trying too hard. If you have to say you're premium, you have to say you're luxury, you have to really overdo it with this sort of bad campaigns and cheesy photo shoots. It's so easy to see through it. There's so many real companies that do things a bit quieter and a bit more confidently, and I think that's how you do it. It's just quiet confidence. I know the word quiet luxury is really overused lately, but it's really applicable. If you look at something like Loro Piana or Brunello Cucinelli, like they're not shouting that they're luxury. They're letting like the quality of an image do the talking, or the quality of a brand or a beautifully written statement do the talking. And I think that sort of attention to detail and not trying too hard is really how you convey premium to a customer.
The biggest challenge that I have when I work with luxury brands, and we work with a lot of them too, not to the scale that you do, but I've found that they all want to have the same type of photography, the same type of video. They're not following trends necessarily, but they're kind of restricting themselves to a magazine editorial style feeling. Do you find that too? And how do you stand out?
I mean, I flat out will tell clients they're being unoriginal, and just telling them that if they already know about it, it's probably not cool. And we need to take them to a place where we need to move above where their consumers got all these brands in front of them, and they're all great and they're all used to it. But you got to sort of go a step ahead of your consumer. You got to pull them along for the journey. And I think if we can come up with something original that people it really resonates, they really aspire to be part of it, but it's hasn't been done before, that's a win. But it's just convincing them to come on this journey with you. I will flat out tell them they're being unoriginal and lame, and we need to do something much cooler than that. I think social media hasn't helped with this, by the way. I think I see a lot of the hotels we work with posting reels using something that was trending 3 months before, just because they're desperate to sort of go viral, which they're just going to look like boomers doing really bad reels on social media, unfortunately. So it's just about trying to show originality and talk about the fact that they have architects that build these places that take inspiration from real places. They have interior designers that get inspiration from all over the world. We don't just want to take inspiration from what everyone else in your peer set is doing. You got to go way beyond that.
That's so true. I had Emmett Shine on the podcast, and he made a great point that for brands to truly the brands that thrive, he says, are the ones that you can tell the founder's passion. It's very clear when the founder is dispassionate or not involved in some of those key marketing decisions. And I think your point about, telling the architect's story or telling the history of a place, especially when you guys work with so many great hospitality brands, being able to uncover gems like that is what resonates with me as a traveler. Those are the things that's going to stick out for me, not some trending TikTok thing that I'm going to see on Instagram.
Exactly. And I think we work with a mixture of different brands. Some are 125 years old and some are startups, right? And I think that when we work with the legacy brands, there's so many layers to pull inspiration from or do research and look into the history and see what something looked like it was called in the 1960s and what do we pull back from that. Whereas with startups, you're kind of making stuff up on the spot, and it's quite difficult. It's very difficult to do something authentic for a startup. And I think actually your point that you were making about what Emmett said, one of the reasons we say no to some of the startup work is because of that exact thing. We can tell a founder might not have category passion. They might have just spotted an opportunity. They might have raised some money and they built totally fine product. But if they don't have true passion for that category, I just don't think it works. I think it might work for a year or two, and then I think they get bored and want to go on to their next thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. I have to. So I run Cobble Hill with my wife Carter, and you run King and Partners with your wife.
Yes.
How long is that? Has that always been the case? Has that? Did she come on? Was she? Where did this? How did this materialize into? And how does work-life balance?
It materialized because she came to work at Create the Group with me, and we immediately started working all the best things together and bouncing ideas off each other. And when I was ready to move on, she's the first person I said, "Let's go do this thing," and we did. And we were kind of dating each other when we started King and Partners. It seems insane now I tell the story. We started the King and Partners together, but we were dating, and then we became more and more serious. And then she moved in, and now we're married. But work-life balance is actually amazing. I love it when we can kind of have this sort of fluidity of work and life. So we might be on a work trip, but we'll take an extra couple of days, or we might be at the weekend and we might go drive by a hotel, go check it out. That sort of rhythm of life is, I think, very modern and really easy to live with. In terms of disagreeing on projects or anything like that, it very rarely happens. I'm always right anyway, so it's always fine. But she has she's incredible, really, and she has clients she looks after, and I have clients I look after. We're both kind of in the peripheral of each other's clients as well. So she'll ask my opinion on her stuff, and I'll ask her opinion on my stuff, but she'll take the lead on hers, I take the lead on mine. She tends to do the more tasteful, chic, beautiful brands. I tend to do the ones that maybe are a bit more corporate or have a bit more of a commercial lean to them. But it's only taking the lead. We're still helping each other on everything. So it kind of works out. So if there's a kind of disagreement about X project, if it's a project she's leading, then it's her final call. If it's a project I'm leading, then it's my final call. But we have some good discussions, but never really fall out over it.
Yeah, I generally don't have creative disagreements with Carter. I feel like so we have 3 young children, 6 through 11, and the biggest struggle is the power struggle for who has to pick up the kids, right? And stuff like
sure.
that. I mean, it's just she knows my schedule, I know her schedule. That's probably the hardest thing, but working with my wife is great. Like you said, when we travel, we're traveling for work and we're also traveling for, life too. So it extends into our lifestyle and it fits us perfectly. I don't know if everyone could do it. I know a lot of my friends probably couldn't, but I think for our industry, you do see a lot of husband and wife agency owners.
I think one of the really good things as well, like you don't have this thing where you get home from work and you got to guess how your partner's day was. Like how it was, so you know how nice to be or not to be. So it's kind of like there's no guessing. You're both aware of everything you're working on, so you can actually be a bit more sensitive around certain things if you need to be. So it's great.
That's so true. I have to think that there are a lot of egos kind of in the upper echelons of the luxury fashion and hospitality space. You seem very grounded, and I think that probably comes with 25 years of experience, right? And you have a lot of work that you can back yourself up on. But I know that there have probably been times when it's hard to kind of command respect in that. How do you maintain such a groundedness in a room full of a lot of egos?
I mean, it was very difficult I absolutely have a healthy ego. I really do. I mean, I want to get the credit for what we do. I want to be heard. I want our ideas to come to the top of the pile. I want all of our work to win. I want to win every pitch. I want to not destroy every agency, but I want to absolutely show them what we can do. We're doing it better. I mean, I absolutely have that drive and ego. But I guess it's sort of over time, I've kind of really mellowed out because I do have this sort of track record of successful brands. I don't have to walk into a room and convince everyone of what we can do and who I am and who we are and what we do. It's they know already when I walk in. So it's really about listening, understanding who I'm working with and really understanding their point of view. So again, listening. That's kind of, I never used to do that. I would walk in and just be like, I know what to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. Now I'm a bit more quiet and I listen. I make sure I understand the lay of the land, and then I'll speak and I'll say what I think is the right thing to do. So I just take my time and think about things. And if I don't have something to say, I won't say it. If I don't have a groundbreaking piece of something incredible to say about the work, I probably won't say anything. I'll just listen and think a bit more. And I think that's come with time. But I think you get respect by showing that you truly understand something and you can deliver something that's going to solve the problem. And we've done that countless times. So people respect what we say now. I think also, I think reputation is really important to me. And I've tried to sort of do the right thing, not only the best creative or the best technology or the best marketing. I've also tried to sort of make the right decisions, which means if it's a direction where we don't make as much money, but it's the right way to go, still steer the client in that direction. I really stand by this. I think a lot of agencies will push a strategy that might make them more money, but might not be the best outcome. That's such a shortcut to a little bit of extra money. I'd rather build trust and longevity and just do the right thing. Even if it's more work and it results in a bit less profit, it's the right thing to do. And I think if you do that enough times, you build up good karma points, you build up a good reputation, people like you, people trust you. And I think that I've been doing that for 25 years now. And I think that really helps.
Yeah. I mean, I think you definitely deliver on being full service as an agency without compromising on quality with that kind of approach to marketing, where you're listening, where you're actually coming up with the right solution and putting yourself in the client's shoes a little bit more and having that. It is, I have found it's very difficult to be full service. Have you found that too?
Yeah, I mean, I used to hate that term, and I was like, well, we're always going to be specialists. We're never going to be full service. But I think that what we found was we would put blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, and then you hand it off to a partner who's, outside of your service category, who maybe like a marketing partner. Say we're creating a brand and a piece of film, it gets handed to a marketing partner, and they completely fuck it up. And it's so frustrating. Not everyone, but a lot of the time that happens where you don't have the right partners working properly together for whatever reason, or you've got someone that's from a different industry, thinks they know this industry, and they're applying the wrong rules to your piece of work. And this sort of adding on of services at KMP kind of happened because of that. Like, I was getting so frustrated at like freelance strategists, or getting so frustrated at marketing partners or production partners or whatever it was, that I thought, the way to do this and to be like the master of all trades, not a jack of all trades, is to just do it slowly. And so, we went from digital agency, we wanted to do branding, we hired an amazing branding person, and we got one project and we did it really well. And then we did another project, did it even better. Then we hired another branding. So doing it slowly, step by step. And then a year into that, I'm like, fine, now we do branding. And there's 7 people in that team. Oh, but to do branding properly, you need strategists. So let's find a really good strategist, bring them in. And then you got 2, then you got 5. And then, so just doing it really slowly. And then the last time we did this was probably 3 years ago now, as we built the marketing team. But that was probably the hardest add-on of services I've done, because I'm a marketer, but I don't know all the acronyms. I don't know all the tools. I know how to market to the right audience, but there's absolute experts out there that know these things inside out, and it's a different language to me, and I've had to learn again. And it's been really interesting and really fun, but it's been a learning curve. And so finding the right people that I can build the KMP marketing team they're not just there to get clicks and conversions. They're there to help build brands. They're there to increase awareness. They're there to make the creative shine, and for customers and audience to like find brands that resonate with them. That was so difficult. And most of the people we met were just like, oh, I can do this thing and I can accelerate it, and you're going to do rocket ship growth, and you're going to get all these clicks and all these conversions. And it kind of goes against the idea of marketing that I want to do it slowly in a way. Everyone's like, how quickly can we scale? I'm like, I don't care about quickly. I want to go from here to there, and I want to do it in a way where the brand gets stronger and better on the way, not weaker and destroyed. So we kind of started that journey 3 or 4 years ago. Today we have a great marketing team that really feel like a part of King & Partners. So it's been good, but the answer is you do it slowly. That's really it.
Yeah. So when Cobble Hill started, we were, we did everything. We were full service, whatever we would take it. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I brought on a partner to build out the marketing department, the digital advertising aspect. I knew nothing about digital advertising, right? I was a creative myself, and my partner left about 2.5 years ago. And so left this vacancy of, okay, we had shifted everything to doing digital advertising. So I had to kind of figure out everything about it, all the acronyms, everything there. And I actually think that I'm a much better marketer because of my creative background, right? There's a lot of emphasis now on, hey, you need to swap out your creative. Let's focus on the creative for meta performance and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I've always focused on creative. You guys are just thinking about this now.
That's the thing that I see, which I really love at King & Partners, where you've got like, we're working on a client and you've got the marketing team with their thoughts, but they're sitting right next to the team that shot that piece of film or that made that logo or whatever the thing is. And so you do have this sort of meeting of the minds where it's like, it's not just about like What can we change? You're sitting with a team that came up with the strategic positioning of that brand in the first place. So all the work is done through that lens, which is great. All the copywriting is with this correct brand voice, so it's great. And then you have this sort of really great dialogue where people respect what the other one knows. Like our creative team respect what the marketing team know, but the marketing team also really respect what the creative team built or came up with. So you end up in this really, really good balanced place where it's about building brand equity, but also growing and selling as well. So it works well.
Was that an easy pitch for your clients too, to be like, hey, now we offer marketing, or no?
Really difficult. And it still is, actually. It still is. It's really frustrating to me that so let me backtrack a bit. We've all those add-ons to King and Partners over the years, from digital design boutique to like design company to whatever we are today, branding and marketing agency. We've had to change perception every time. For a long time, people just thought we were websites, but no, we do websites, and digital's a decent chunk of our business, but a much bigger piece is the sort of strategic positioning, brand identity, campaigns, that sort of thing. And so we've had to sort of really struggle to change perception, and we've managed to do it. And it's all about what we post and how we speak and clients we meet and how we take an opportunity and reshape it and send it back to the client. And we've managed to do that with every new chapter of the KMP story. With marketing, it's incredibly difficult. So for some reason, and I totally get it actually, when certain clients cannot get their head around the fact that if you are good at making a logo or shooting a film, how could you possibly be good at knowing what Salesforce Data Cloud is? Like they cannot comprehend that there are groups of people with both sides of these brains working together that could absolutely do this and do it in a really powerful way. And so we have a few people that have trusted us, and it works so well. But I've lost pitches because they just don't have the trust, that they don't think we're a real marketing company.
You find it harder to do the marketing for the hospitality aspect or the e-commerce aspect? That particular add-on.
I personally find it easier for hospitality, although I think it's more complicated. I think there's more tools, and the data lives in so many different places, and there's so many like integrations of different things you have to think about. There's
right. It's very siloed. You don't have this Shopify ecosystem that everyone has that's kind of unified.
Yeah. Most of our clients have like 7 or 8 places where all their CRM data is living. And so it makes it very complicated. However, I think if you can make sense of that data and you have a good understanding of your audience segmentation, I find it really quite easy to deliver successful campaigns that really resonate with those people. I think it's really fun. I like all the seasonal changes and the promotions and all the kind of offers and things you can send. And it's really, there's always like a moment every week you can sort of build a story around and get out. Whereas with DTC or e-commerce, I mean, you've got all the holidays, but it gets a bit repetitive. And I think I don't know, I know it's a well-known thing, but this move where people are less interested in products and more in experiences, I made that shift in my head a few years ago, and I'm firmly there. I want to get people excited about experiences. I don't know how excited I can get about creating ads for luxury handbags anymore, unfortunately. I just doesn't really feel right to me to be pushing people to buy stuff they maybe don't need when they could spend money and go do something and have a great time with their family and just have a much better life. So I probably just alienated half my client base right there. That's how I feel.
I've long thought about just really getting very narrow in the vertical and just saying, I just want to do hospitality. But I think that it's, at least for us, being the size we are, it's very hard for us to kind of crack that code and get into someone who has money to invest it a lot in there.
I think we're like 65% hospitality now. And I do like that, because I do like having some other things to work on. Like we do some coffee brands. We do things like Skims for Kim Kardashian. We do all sorts of like interesting brands. And I think you learn a lot from other industries. There's a different sort of rhythm to the commerce, or rhythm to marketing, or different type of audience, or the coffee brand. One of the coffee brands we have is a super young, cool audience. We don't have those in our hospitality thing. So there is stuff to learn. So I do enjoy that, but I just think the hospitality stuff is really what I love, like telling those stories about places and experiences and things.
You're also a very passionate car person. I don't know what the term is.
Yeah.
Driver.
Yeah.
How have you not
Yeah.
parlayed into doing marketing and branding for just all car companies?
You tell me. Hasn't happened. We did a little bit of work for Bentley, but their budgets were tiny. The thing I find with the car industry, the more expensive the car, the smaller the marketing budgets, which is crazy to me. But we did some really fun projects for Bentley, but it was a few $1,000s each. It was back in the day, and it was great. And in fact, they gave me access to their press fleet that was way better than the payment. So I got to use a different car like every month for a couple of years, which was great. But yeah, I would like a car brand. I also love a boat brand as well. Like, and I kind of any of these tools of enjoying life brands, basically, I would love to do more of, whether it's hotels or villas or boats or motorcycles or cars or great coffee or good food. I'm totally open in terms of the sort of clients we work on.
Yeah, we've done 2 boat companies before, and they were a lot of fun. Actually, it's great. You're always working with great imagery. You're working with.
I'm just thinking of like the content creation potential. Like we got to go to the Bahamas and shoot this boat.
In that regard, like, so how do you? I know you've done work you did work on the North Shore of Hawaii recently, right? And
yeah,
Sorry, is it Turtle Bay?
Yeah, Turtle Bay. We're working on a project. We've done Grand Malaya in Maui. We've done actually 3 or 4 projects in Hawaii.
Wow. Is it? I guess my question is, you do work with these kind of global hospitality brands. There is, in branding towards an American audience, there is a tendency sometimes to resort to stereotypes or whatever it is, or appropriation of the culture a little bit. How do you navigate those cultural differences in branding?
I really think we have this sort of global outlook at King and Partners, which really helps us avoid stereotypes. So we have a team in Paris, we have Miami, LA, New York, where we don't just look at it's all about your frame of reference, right? I think it's about what you look at that inspires you. And I think that the whole team of King and Partners are really thinking globally a lot. Whether it be someone found like this really cool like bathhouse in Japan that's got a really cool menu, or we saw this really incredible like bakery that opened up in Paris that's got this just beautiful collateral, or this boutique hotel that opened in the Swiss Alps that's middle of nowhere, but it's got this really cool like brand story. I think it's about sort of uncovering these sort of really interesting moments, because I think it's really easy, and I think a lot of agencies fall into this trap where all their inspiration comes from other agencies. They're just looking at other agencies' work, or they're looking at some of the portfolio websites. Or
you're calling me out now.
We'll do it, fine. Or like we look at like Pinterest for inspiration. It's ridiculous. You got to go beyond that. You got to pick up you got to order a pile of old magazines. You got to look at old books. You got to watch films. You got to travel. And I think if you do those things and remember, and like you see something like, oh, that would really work well for this thing. And I think if you're always working in your mind, which I think a lot of founders are, you're always going to see stuff that you can bring back and apply to your work. So we try to avoid a lot of the stereotypes, but we do have to know that American audience really well. So you can't go too like aloof and out of their world. You gotta come up with things that are just beyond where they are, so they can move towards it nicely.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's great. So the agency is now global. You have an office in Paris.
Yeah. So we one of our creative directors is French, and she wanted to move home after COVID, and we said that's totally fine. Go do that. We're going to set up KMP Paris. We have our 4th person joining that office shortly this summer, so it's going really well. We're working on a really interesting project. We've been doing quite a bit of like special projects for JP Morgan Chase. So even that is a statement I never would have made 5 years ago. I never would have thought we'd work for big companies like that, but we have had the best experience working with them. They come to us with like these special missions where we've got this new thing. We want to create like a special tier that's for high net worth. Can you give it a name and give it a look and a personality, and and do like a 4 or 5 month sprint to kind of put this thing and give it back to us so we can build it. And we've done that on a number of different categories and service lines for them now. But they came to us about a year ago because of the Paris Olympics. Chase wants to have a big exposure for the Chase Sapphire Reserve level. What could we do that's not overtly just advertising or kind of just a bad brand partnership? So what we did was we worked with them to come up with this idea of a big boat that's going to be on the Seine, the River Seine, and it's going to be fully branded with this beautiful pattern that we created with not a single word of Chase on the outside. It's sort of, if you know, you know. It's their Sapphire Reserve floating lounge. Customers get invited, other people can come to, and when you go in and you go inside, it becomes more branded, but it's going to be this place for people, tourists and locals to go watch, and Chase customers to go watch some of the sports, to have drinks, to eat and hang out. So it's all built. I just saw some of the images today coming back from Paris, and it looks incredible. So that's one of the bigger projects we've been working on with that team, which has been amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I was just in Paris actually, like a month ago. I've been there a few times, but so much inspiration to draw from in that city. I'll tell you what, man.
I've been going there with Inii a few times lately, and you walk down the street and there's 6 amazing brands on every street that are like might be 40 or 100 years old that you want to take pictures of and just remember that typography or that color combination. It's just incredible. London also to less of a degree, but I mean, there's so many interesting brands in these different European cities. It's really cool.
So how do you maintain your agency's culture with everyone being so spread out and maintain the quality? I mean, not just the culture. The culture, I feel like, is tricky. I'd love to know how you do that, but quality of work, right? While you grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have this sort of mindset. I'll answer the quality question first. We have this mindset at King & Partners where like, we always want to deliver. We always want to we're all quite competitive, right? We're like competitive creatives. It's like the Olympics of creatives at King & Partners. We all want to just do better and like show the world and show each other like, you thought we're this good, well, we're this good, and there's that sort of inherent like nature built into all of our work. Like client asks us for A, B, C, that's fine, we can do that. But what if we did D, E, and F as well? And it was like this thing that I hadn't even thought of. Like we always go there with a client, and we're never afraid to go beyond scope. So it's cool to have contracts, it's cool to have a plan, but what if we have a better idea halfway through it? Let's just throw that shit out, do something completely different, or deliver both, and show something really amazing. And that's kind of built in. So every time we're talking about ideas, we want to, obviously we don't want to blow budget or blow through the timelines, but we always want to deliver a bit more and do something. And it's just built in where we always want to like, just make it as good as it possibly can. I think also we have an amazing team. I mean, they're all so talented. They're all at King & Partners for a reason. And they're all, Innie and I rarely see bad work. What we see is work that we can add to. And we kind of add our ideas or add our slant or jump in with an idea that we might have seen or thought of. But that idea, the idea of jumping in with ideas is prevalent throughout the agency. And even if you're an account manager or you're a tech project manager or you're in marketing, your ideas as part of the creative process are absolutely welcome. And I think it's a kind of nice, refreshing place to work. So we're always pushing and trying to do as good as possible. In terms of culture, I'm not going to lie, it's really difficult, especially when we're hybrid, remote. So most people come to the office twice a week. It's all about, I think, having humor in the work you do. So none of us take it too seriously. We'll quite often have, as most companies are, like we're a lot of our sort of culture happens in Slack now. So it's all about this kind of conversations we have where we might post some work and have like lively debates on it, or some of our favorite things to do are post other work that agencies have done and all pile in on it and trash it, which is great. or sometimes we say it's good. But we have a lot of like kind of funny conversations happening. Like people can't solve a problem, we'll post it in the general channel on Slack and people will jump in with thoughts. And normally it turns from practical ideas to just stupidity quite quickly. And it's kind of funny. So we build culture that way. We build it through trust. We do encourage like people getting together face to face where possible. Yeah, that's really it.
How often do you kind of meet one-on-one with your team, like individuals? Are you meeting with them regularly, or yeah?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, when we're in the studio, my favorite thing to do is just go for a walk, and a couple of things will catch my eye, and I might walk over and just chat to one of the, a designer about what they're working on, and say, that's really good. Well, I prefer that thing you did last week, or why don't you try this thing? That to me is where the best ideas happen. Where you have these sort of serendipitous conversations. It's great, and you're reminding me I need to do more of this. But I do take a walk sometimes. And I walk through and I kind of chat to people, and Inii and I are really involved on every project. And people say, "Are you micromanagers?" And I say, "No," but we absolutely are, in the best possible way. Like we're kind of looking at every micro decision that happens, and we're kind of sitting back and letting it happen and jumping in where we need to. We're not. I mean, we are quite bossy, but we're not like annoyingly micromanaging. But we are absolutely obsessed with the micro details. So we do this on every project. So we meet on every project internally, at least for every week, and we talk about what's happening, and we either love it or we have ideas, and we kind of all make it even better constantly.
I love that, man. Yeah, I think you have to stay in touch with the work. I can't imagine scaling to a size where I couldn't be invested in the work that's being produced on some level.
Yeah, like we have some clients that might not even know I'm involved anymore on certain projects because I was on the first few weeks of meetings and then I step off. I don't have time for the client status call every week. I honestly can't stand those. I hate those meetings. But I love sitting in the internal that's the day before where we talk about what we're presenting, and I'll be in that one every week. I'll sit with our team every week and look at it. But I also want to empower the team. So I'm like, these are the ideas. You've done a great job. You guys go do it and present it and get everyone excited about it. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Man, I love having you on here. It's great to connect. You truly are an inspiration to me, and I'm sure many other agency owners. You work with such great clients, and I just feel like your vibe and everything that you and Inii are doing, and the rest of the team at King & Partners is it always looks great, and I've never seen anything bad. Where can people find you, Tony?
I'm normally on Instagram, Tony King NYC, or King & Partners. I'm on both of those.
Your Instagram is great. Your Instagram is definitely worth a follow. I think.
My Instagram strategy has changed lately. So I used to have a car account that I post all my car shit on, and I didn't want to annoy all my other friends with it. But now I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna just not use the car account. I'm just gonna fill my personal account with life, work, travels, family, bit of work. So that's the best place is Tony King NYC.
I love it. Cool.
Thanks.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for taking time.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. It's always good to talk to other industry people, and it's thanks for having me on.